That morning started like any other. Coffee in hand, sunrise reflecting off the lake, the world felt calm for once. But within the hour, the HOA president Karen was on my dock waving a violation notice in my face, screaming that I had 24 hours to vacate my own property. She had no idea that in that very same hour, I'd already set in motion something that would take away the one thing she loved most, her boat. My name's Jack. I'm 58, semi-retired, and after decades of hard work in construction, I thought I'd earned some peace. I built that dock myself, every board, every nail. It wasn't just wood sitting over water, it was freedom. That's where I drank my coffee at sunrise, taught my grandkids to fish, and sat most evenings just to listen to the frogs sing. I thought I'd found my quiet corner of the world. What I didn't count on was the HOA, or more specifically Karen. Now, Karen isn't the kind of person you can ignore. She's the type who dresses like she's headed to a board meeting just to pick up the mail. Late 40s, sharp haircut, red lipstick that could stop traffic, and that damn clipboard always clutched like a weapon. She strutted around like she was the queen of the lake, barking orders, nitpicking mailboxes, and pretending the whole neighborhood was her personal kingdom. Her house was the biggest, her lawn the most artificial looking, and her pride and joy sat gleaming at the edge of her yard, a massive white and blue boat that she polished more than most people wash their cars. At first I stayed out of her way, but then one morning she marched right up to me, chin high, clipboard ready. "Jack," she said, "this dock violates community standards. You have 30 days to remove it or face fines." I laughed, thinking she was joking. I had county permits, inspection papers, everything signed off. "Karen," I said, "this dock's legal. It's been inspected." She smirked. "The HOA's standards are higher than the county's." And just like that she turned and walked off, heels clacking like gunfire. I stood there stunned, letter in hand, watching her disappear up the path. That was the first moment I realized what I was dealing with. This wasn't about rules, it was about control. Over the next few weeks, the letters started coming. First, a warning about my dock aesthetics, then one about my lawn edging, another about my patio chairs not being community approved. It was ridiculous. I stacked the notices in a pile on my desk, each one signed Karen, HOA President, in big looping handwriting like she was autographing my misery. At first I tried to play nice. I brought all my paperwork to the next HOA meeting, explained everything, calmly laid out my permits. She didn't even glance at them. "Legal doesn't always mean compliant," she said, tapping her pen like a judge. "We have community standards to maintain." That's when I knew reason wasn't going to work with her. Karen didn't want compliance. She wanted submission. And little by little, she got under my skin. Neighbors started whispering. People who used to wave at me now looked the other way. One night I walked down to fish only to find her damn boat parked practically against my dock. When I asked her to move it, she raised her glass of wine and called out, "It's a community lake, Jack. Take it up with the HOA." Then she laughed, that high, sharp laugh that stuck in your ears like a mosquito. I felt the anger boiling inside me, but underneath it something worse, doubt. What if I really was wrong? What if I'd missed something? Maybe she was right. Maybe I should just take it down, save myself the stress. That night I sat on the edge of the dock, staring at my reflection in the water. I'd built bridges and houses tougher than any of her little rules, but sitting there, I felt small, beaten. For a second I thought about giving up, about letting her win. But then I remembered something my old foreman used to say, "Bullies only win when you let them think they're the boss." And Karen had been bossing this whole neighborhood around for years. So I decided to dig, literally and figuratively. I went through the HOA bylaws, every page of that thick, boring manual that no one ever reads. Somewhere in there, I figured, was a rule Karen didn't want anyone to see. And there it was, tucked between two paragraphs about shoreline maintenance. All watercraft must be properly registered with both HOA and county authorities. I couldn't help but smile. The next morning I drove down to the county clerk's office, handed over Karen's address, and asked if there was a registration for her boat. The clerk typed a few keys, frowned, and shook her head. "No record," she said. That was the first crack in Karen's armor. I went home, grabbed my camera, and started documenting everything. Her dock extension that clearly stretched beyond regulation length, her boat tied up not on her property, but on HOA land right there by the shared shoreline. Then I combed through every meeting minute from the past 5 years, no mention of any approval for her dock expansion. Not once. By the time I was done, I had a binder full of evidence that could make a lawyer blush. Speaking of lawyers, I got one. Marcy, a no-nonsense property attorney who'd seen more HOA battles than anyone should. I laid everything out for her. She flipped through the binder, nodded slowly, and then smiled. "Jack," she said, "if her boat isn't registered, the HOA has full authority to impound it. You can file for enforcement." I blinked. "You mean?" She leaned back. "You can legally have her boat seized." I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. The irony was too perfect. For months she'd been threatening to take away my dock, and now I had the power to take away her boat. But I wasn't going to rush it. No, this needed to be done right. I needed the neighbors to see it to understand exactly who she was. So I started talking. Over coffee with Bob next door, helping the Martins fix their shutters, chatting with folks at the bait shop. One by one, people started opening up. Everyone had a Karen story. The Martins had been fined for excessively cheerful shutters. Bob got written up for having the wrong type of bird feeder. It was endless. They were tired. They just needed someone to stand up first. And that's what I was about to do. By the time the next HOA meeting rolled around, I had everything lined up. The evidence, the legal paperwork, even a marine tow company on standby ready to act. All I needed was the right moment. The night of the meeting, I showed up early, binder under my arm. The room filled fast, neighbors whispering, curious, nervous. Then Karen swept in, looking every bit the tyrant, in a navy blue suit and bright red lipstick, her clipboard clutched like a royal scepter. "Good evening," she said, tapping the microphone. "We're here to discuss a matter that threatens our community's standards." And just like that, she launched into her performance photos of my dock projected onto the wall, her voice full of fake concern. "Unsafe, unsightly, non-compliant. If we allow one homeowner to disregard the rules, we invite chaos." Her loyalists nodded and clapped on cue. I sat there quietly waiting. Then she pointed right at me. "Jack has refused to cooperate. Therefore, I propose we take immediate legal action to remove his dock." The room went quiet. That was my cue. I stood slow and calm, binder in hand. "Karen," I said, "you're right. Rules matter. They apply to everyone, don't they?" She smirked. "Of course they do." "Good," I said, flipping the binder open. "Then perhaps you can explain this." I held up a photo, her dock extension clearly unapproved. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I flipped again. "And this your boat? Not registered with the county or HOA. Another violation." Her smile faltered. "And here," I said, holding up one more photo, "your boat tied on HOA property. That's a direct breach of the bylaws, Karen." The room erupted, people whispering, pointing. Karen's face went red. "This is irrelevant," she snapped. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so the room had to lean in to hear. "No, Karen. It's exactly relevant. You've been breaking your own rules while punishing everyone else for less." She slammed her clipboard down. "You think this will save you? I've been president for 6 years. You're just one man with a pile of papers." I smiled. "Maybe. But this pile's a little heavier than you think." Right on cue, there was a knock at the door. 2 men in polo shirts stepped in, carrying clipboards. "Excuse us," one said. "We're here for the boat impound." Karen froze. "What?" "Unregistered vessel," the man said. "Filed under HOA enforcement." For a split second, no one breathed. Then Karen's voice cracked. "No, you can't take my boat. That's mine. This is harassment." The men didn't flinch. They walked past her and out toward the lake. Karen followed, shouting, stumbling in her heels, mascara running as they hooked her precious boat to the tow truck. "You can't do this." "Do you know who I am?" I followed them to the shoreline, coffee cup in hand, and said, "We all know who you are, Karen. That's the problem." And then in front of the entire neighborhood, her gleaming white boat, the same one she'd flaunted every weekend, was hauled out, bouncing behind the tow truck like a fallen throne. The silence that followed was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. Neighbors started clapping. Some laughed. Others just stared in disbelief. Karen stood there on the grass, shaking, muttering something about lawsuits, but nobody cared anymore. The queen had been dethroned. That was the last time Karen tried to use her clipboard as a weapon. Within a week, the HOA board called a vote of no confidence. She lost her presidency, her precious boat stayed impounded, and her dock, ironically, was flagged for removal. And me, I didn't throw a party, didn't celebrate. I just went back to my dock, same as always, coffee in hand, water, calm again. For the first time in months, there was peace. No threats, no fake smiles, no letters in the mailbox. Just the sound of the lake and the faint creak of the boards I'd built myself. Sometimes I'd see Karen walking by, head down, no clipboard in sight. People didn't fear her anymore. They barely even looked at her. Power's funny like that. It only exists if people believe in it. I didn't destroy her. She destroyed herself. I just held up the mirror. And if this whole mess taught me anything, it's this. Bullies don't lose power when you fight them. They lose it the moment you stop being afraid.